Imagine it's 2,500 years ago. You're in Persepolis. The city glows with the sun bouncing off polished stone. Columns tower above you. And in the air, a faint scent of rosewater, incense, and camel. But under the ceremonial gold, behind the royal walls, and beneath those scrolls of cuneiform, sex. Sex is happening. A lot of it. And not just the kind in polite family trees. Welcome to ancient Iran, land of kings, poets, and sometimes very questionable pillow talk. Let's talk about what sex was really like. Chapter 1. The Persian Bedroom. Let's start with the Achaemenid Empire, the one that gave us Darius, Xerxes, and enormous banquet halls. According to the Greeks, who loved gossip, Persian kings kept massive harems, not 2 or 3 wives. Try 300 concubines, each with their own chambers, their own guards, their own schedule. The women were rotated in for visits, like shifts in a royal HR department. And if the king liked you, you got promoted. If he didn't, well, maybe your cousin would have better luck. But it wasn't all forced. Some concubines gained power, influence, and a few even love. Marriages, on the other hand, were arranged, always, and early. Girls were often married by 14, men slightly older, because puberty meant you could now participate in society. And in society, sex meant babies, and babies meant legacy. Chapter 2. Zoroastrian bedtime rules as before Islam arrived. Persia followed Zoroastrianism, a religion with gods, fire temples, and very detailed ideas about purity. Sex? It wasn't dirty. It was divine. As long as it was within marriage, and you weren't bleeding, dead, lying, or part plant. Yes, seriously. Zoroastrians believed in keeping things clean, which meant no sex during menstruation, no sex around corpses, no sex with animals, demons, or plants. Masturbation, punishable. Homosexuality, tolerated in some ways, but technically sinful, at least on paper. But as we'll see, paper and practice were not always friends. Chapter 3. Same-sex love and eunuchs enter Bagoas. He was a eunuch, and allegedly the lover of both Darius III and Alexander the Great. A man whose beauty was so legendary, poets wrote verses about him. Same-sex relations weren't unheard of, especially among the elite. Young male servants, pages, artists. Boys were often admired in that very poetic, I'm not saying it, but I'm saying it kind of way. Was it love? Sometimes. Power? Usually. Consent? Rarely mentioned. But art didn't lie. Miniatures from later centuries show scenes of men reclining, drinking, touching, not in secret, but in silk robes by candlelight. Chapter 4. Women, power, and pleasure. Not all women were silent participants. Some wrote poems, some hosted salons, and some negotiated their own lovers. Persian women, especially noble women, had rights. Property, divorce, dowries. In rural areas, sexuality followed the moon. Women tracked their cycles by the moon phases. Old herbal texts advised pomegranate for fertility and garlic to ward off unwanted advances. No word on its success rate. And the Kama Sutra. It wasn't Persian, but similar works traveled through trade. Pleasure was not a foreign concept. It just wasn't discussed in the daylight. Chapter 5. Strange rituals and stranger stories. Here's where things get weird. Greek sources claimed Persian nobles sometimes married their sisters. Why? Purity, keeping the bloodline clean. Also, they were obsessed with lineage. Now, whether this actually happened is debated. It might be propaganda, or a rare elite practice exaggerated by outsiders. Like saying all Americans eat pizza with ranch dressing. Wait, do they? There are also rumors of temple prostitution, but most historians now think that's a mix-up with Babylon. Zoroastrian temples were more into fire than fornication. Chapter 6. The Islamic Era and Erotic Poetry. With Islam came new laws. Adultery was forbidden, homosexuality officially banned. But poetry went wild. The Safavid period gave us verses about wine, roses, and beautiful boys. Some poems were so sensual, they were later censored. But at the time, they were recited in courts, with applause. And while sex outside marriage was discouraged, male brothels existed and were taxed. Yes, there was a government form for it, and probably a bureaucrat who hated his job. Chapter 7. Behind the Curtain. So what did sex in ancient Iran really look like? It depended on your class, your gender, your religion, and your luck. For royals, it meant harems and heirs. For commoners, it meant duty and tradition. For poets, it meant metaphors. And for eunuchs like Bagoas, it meant walking a delicate line between intimacy and performance. What we do know is this: sex wasn't shameful. It wasn't hidden. It was everywhere, woven into art, language, law, and dreams. Like any culture, ancient Iran had rules, but also secrets. Secrets whispered in the gardens of Shiraz, in the flicker of lanterns, in the folds of silk robes, and in the margin of forgotten scrolls. If you're still here, thanks for listening to a very long explanation of historical Persian pillow talk. Now go dream of sandalwood, scrolls, and awkward royal dates. Good night. And don't marry your sister, even if a Greek historian tells you it's normal.